Welcome everyone to Fake Whale Live. Today's guest we have Étienne De Crécy. Is that right? Did I get it
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect.
World world renowned DJ musician. Um, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit if you don't mind.
Okay. Actually, my main activity is music producer, electronic music producer. I started in the early 90s. I think the really first released was in 1993. Then it's next year will be the 30 years that I'm producing music, electronic music, and and basically that's it. And just since last year, I started uh, to produce some visuals, especially for NFT.
Right on. Yeah, that's what I was actually getting to just in my own research of you right now. But I want to go back a little bit to the beginning or earlier days, I guess. Earlier, sometime in the 2000s, you were doing work with Daft Punk as a producer. Is that right?
No, no, no. I never
No,
produced the Daft Punk. No, no, no. I mean,
never worked with them.
no, no, no. No.
I have bad info then. I got a text earlier saying that you collaborated with them in some respect. That's
No,
incorrect.
we didn't. No, we used to play together in some parties at the in
Okay.
the 90s, but we never been in a studio together.
Okay. Well, like as a producer then, what are some of your biggest accomplishments, would you say, as a producer?
I think it's the whole thing because uh, it's just to me it's a work in progress. I mean, I'm still producing music, and I think I'm working on a global thing. I think we will see at the end what is what, you know?
That's a fair answer. So I guess I'll just rewind a little bit. Before this interview, I was unfamiliar with your work personally. I'm not super into like the international DJ scene. I'm
Mhm.
aware of it and I know how gigantic it is. It's like it blows my mind every time that I bump up to it because it's like this is operating on a level that is gigantic in every way. Scale, the amount of people that are into it, the amount of money that's being invested in it. These shows are just giant spectacles, and yet it can operate on a level where like someone like me who's pretty keyed into everything, it can be unaware of it on a level. So like to me, I'm trying to just get in and understand like how did you get to be, so huge in this world? Like, because you're huge, as I was told at the beginning and doing my own research, you're quite accomplished, and I guess that's what I would like to understand.
I wouldn't say huge, I'm
Accomplished.
accomplished maybe, I hope not. I'm still trying, I'm still trying, and that's what I think it's interesting, to I'm still trying. Actually, I discovered electronic music. Then that was in 1992 or three, and that was really the beginning, and that was totally underground music. I mean, techno music from Detroit. That was really underground, and like in Paris, the first raves, we were like 500 people doing all the raves around Paris. But that was really a small community, but a small community all over the world. I mean, everywhere in the world, there were some people really interested in electronic music. Then we were a small crowd, but everywhere in the world. That was pretty amazing and exciting. Uh, this new scene, and it grew up very fast. I mean, from 92 to 96. On 96, that was, the French Touch explosion, and we were everywhere. That was really, really fast. I mean, to come from underground to overground, that was really fast. And now I'm still. I mean, there is some really big international like David Guetta or Swedish House Mafia. They are really huge DJ. I'm not playing in that game. I'm I mean, I played in Coachella, I played in big festivals, but uh, I'm still playing clubs. I'm still DJing in clubs and in festival, but I'm not really like a huge DJ now. I'm well known because I was here at the beginning of the of this scene, but I'm still humble.
Well, if you say so. I mean, well, wherever you are right now is quite gorgeous. Can I ask where you are right now in your studio?
I'm at my studio in Paris. Yes.
Beautiful. I love how you have it set up and your camera is perfectly placed with like the geometry of
Actually,
the
I
room.
put the camera exactly in the middle.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. It looks great, man. What are you working on currently, or what have been your big projects more recently? Like, what are like the big, what is occupying a lot of your time these days
I'm
and your
working
focus?
now. I'm really focused on a new album now. I'm working on it since last year, and it's a new. It's still electronic music, but with a lot of featurings. And then I'm working with
As in collaborators?
yes, collaborators with singers mainly,
Awesome.
male and female singers. And then because usually, I do electronic music, techno music, electro, and it's usually instrumentals. But for this album, I want to have only music with singers. Then it's quite a long process. When I make my music, it's really easy. I have my studio, a lot of synths, and I can deliver very fast some techno music. And with singers, it's a different work for me. And then it's the process is a bit longer, but it's my main focus right now. It's finish this album.
That's really interesting. I often see electronic artists, doing their, purely instrumental, I guess you would call it, or no vocal music or no vocal albums. And then there's oftentimes, one or two albums within their career, they'll do these where, and it always seems like a good uh, inroad to kind of more mainstream to kind of catch more audience. Like, not that that's the point or anything, but like you end up getting these more catchy songs because you're collaborating, and like that's really interesting. The process being completely different. I mean, of course, working solo is much quicker and easier than working with people. And then, especially if you have 10, 12 tracks, you're working with 10, 12 individual personalities. It must be quite different. Is it more of a struggle, would you say, or do you enjoy that?
I enjoyed because it's a new. Uh, I mean, doing I know how to do electronic track, for clubs. I'm doing that for 30 years now. Then it's not automatic, but I knew the rules. With singers, it's totally different.
Mm.
And, then everything is upside down, and where it was easy, it's now difficult. What was difficult is now really easy because when you have a voice, I mean, a lot of things happen. You don't have to twiggle. I don't know to say. You don't have to make things happen because a voice
Yeah,
brings so much emotion in your
yeah.
music, and then for part of it, it's really easier with a voice. But then all the structure, all the edit, it's completely different. Then it's a new challenge for me.
It's really interesting thinking of it as, and maybe you see this differently about electronic music, but once you introduce the voice, that's a purely organic element into a more synthetic environment. And I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding you, but once you bring something organic, now the thing, I'm trying to frame this right. When I work in a more technical sense, I'm going for perfectionism. And it seems if I were making techno music, I would try to make everything perfect because you can make it perfect. Like, that's possible. Where with working with organics, you can't. Like, it's not. So once you're bringing a voice in, does it allow you that freedom of organics, kind of?
Yes, you get it exactly. Exactly that, and you have uh, as a electronic music producer, I have to accept the
Yeah.
human part. I have to
Yeah.
accept
Yeah.
that.
The randomness of it,
Yes.
like you have to just kind of accept it because yeah,
Yeah.
you can't go in and be like, okay, no, you sing this exactly like this. It's like, well, you can, or so, that's really interesting.
It's
It's
never
a
happened.
whole
Yes, exactly. It's never happened as but you have to accept the randomness.
yeah.
I think it's the same for any collaboration. I used to work. I have my studio. I used to work alone in my studio. I'm really comfortable, and actually, collaboration is always difficult because when you used to be alone, it's always easier. And when you have some other inputs, you are like, oh no, I don't like it. But at the end, I really prefer the music I made with other people. I really prefer collaborations
Hmm.
that, than my own works.
That's cool. That's really cool. You incorporate vocals into a lot of your work, though. I've noticed. I was listening to your music right before this interview, actually, doing work in the studio here for like 45 minutes or so. I got, I think, well, the second track really, well, on your Spotify top tracks, I think it's number two, the one where it just says Sensomia,
Okay,
marijuana.
that was
That
one of my first tracks. This one that was
I loved it. I even sent it to the producer, Ali, who you met before here or whatever. I'm like,
yes.
this is dope. Big fan of that. That was cool. But so in involving lyrics in that way or involving vocals, that's not really working with the vocalist, right? That's a sample.
That's a sample. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's much different working with like a musician. You're actually collaborating where you send them the track, they send you vocals, and you work back and forth.
Yes.
Is there
Yes.
any?
When I send an instrumental, and it's always people they sing on the instrumental, and usually when I get the vocals back, I change everything.
Mhm.
I change everything in the instrumental because the voice changes so many things that usually the instrumental doesn't fit anymore. Then I have to change
Mm.
everything.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
It's
really
really
interesting.
interesting. It's really it gets me, further, and
Yeah.
it's really
It
interesting.
pushes you to develop it even more,
Yeah.
and it's a true collaboration then it sounds like, it's not just like one thing on top of the other thing and then say it's done. It's like, no, this is intricately woven together into a collaboration.
Yes. And then hopefully, because when I started the album, that was we were still in under like because of COVID, I had to make some collaboration in remote, remotely. And then now I bring the people in my studio, then we can meet. And
Right on.
it's really total sessions are really totally different. To be two human being in the same room, it's another dimension for collaboration.
Absolutely, and I can imagine that then from even each collaborator individually, it's completely different from person to person because listening to it sounds like you're into all kinds of vocalists. So I heard like hip hop rapping, I heard singing. So those are
Yeah,
very different. How do you choose your collaborators and how is working with each different?
actually, I ask featuring from people. I mean, it's my playlist actually. I check my Spotify playlist, and I used to listen a lot of like indie rock music or hip hop, and then uh, it's always people that I love their music, and it's pretty simple. I'm always a fan of people ask for featuring, and then I send many requests, to many people, that, even the huge artists.
Hmm.
Sometimes they answer, but not every time. But I'm always fan. The first thing is I have to be fan of the music.
That's great. Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it, right? It's the most authentic way to do it. That's for sure. So that's a great way to go into like what inspires you as a musician, other musicians wise, and even going back to more like your younger days, what was the inspiration for you to get into music? Was it electronic music always from the start, or you brought up indie rock? So like were you a rocker back in the day and it came along, or how did this all go about? Um I guess, the inception of your career as a musician, as well as your inspiration as a musician?
Actually, when I was young, I think I first get into music because of punk rock. I was really a fan of punk. Maybe Sex Pistols and the
Yeah.
Clash were my first. That was why I get into music. That was and not at first, not because of the music, but just because of all the artworks and the images of punks.
The complete package.
Yeah, the complete package. And I was like, the cover sleeve, the artwork of London Calling from the Clash. I was really young, pretty young, like 14 or 15, and I was like, wow, it's. I mean, that was beautiful. And then I bought the records, I listened to the music, and I was blown, like, wow, it's fantastic. And then that was first punk, and then new wave. And when I was at high school, I started a punk rock band with my friends, and that was my. I was pretty bad, actually.
But
I was a bass player and pretty bad bass player.
But when it comes to punk, being a bad bass player is good.
It's hopefully, hopefully that's why I decided to play punk music. But and then then I knew I wanted to work in music in music industry, but I was so bad at the bass. Then
But you had rhythm, obviously, because now seeing you're a rhythm composer, for fuck's sake, So like bass made sense in some respect.
But actually, I don't have the sense of rhythm. I clap my hands off beat. I'm not really good. Hopefully, I have computers.
Yeah.
I mean,
Metronomes. I got it. Okay.
It's not natural to me if when
That's quite fascinating itself.
that's why computers. When I discover the computer and the Atari and all the softwares at the time, I was like, okay, it's magic. I don't have anymore, and just have to click with your mouth, click. The notes will be there and play on time, and it's perfect. And that was really
Every time.
yeah, and that was really to me that was like, wow, finally I can make exactly what I want. Yes, but because I was a bad bass player, then and I wanted to work in music, and then I was assistant in a big recording studio in Paris, and that was where I was really introduced to professional music in a big studio.
The industry.
Yes, and I was assistant in this big studio. There was a big studio for big big French act, one of the biggest studio in Paris, and it's where I met Philippe Zdar from Cassius, and we were really at the time we were really friends, and we started together to make techno music. We discovered the techno music together. Actually, we were in at the time hip hop in France was really big, and then we were a recording engineer for hip hop band, and then we discovered the rave party at the same time, and then with Philippe we made this our first record called Motor Bass, and that was we used in the electronic music we used some samples like in hip hop music, and that was pretty original at the time in 1993. That was pretty new.
That sounds awesome. It's called Moto Bass.
Motor Bass, yes.
Yeah, cool. I'm gonna look that up. That sounds dope. And so you were into hip hop too, and this is like early '90s hip hop. So like,
yes, I was sound engineer in hip hop.
What was that?
I was a sound engineer.
Yeah. Okay. Right on.
Yes, for hip hop band in Paris.
That's cool. So were you making their beats and stuff like that?
No, I was really just mixing,
Mixing.
recording and mixing. I was
Okay.
not
That's
uh,
really different.
yeah, and I thought that would be my job, to just record on mix. And as bass player, I was not really good at that. Hopefully, I discovered techno music and I start
Hmm.
producing my own tracks, and then finally I was good at it, to produce my own music.
Totally, totally. And I mean, it's quite interesting. But I'm wondering now if beforehand, were you into computers as well? Like you were into punk music, playing bass, but were you into computers and or programming at all or anything like that?
No, at the time when I was like a punk, I was really against computers. To me,
Oh
that
wow.
yeah, I was like, I know computers are shit, and it's just with new wave. I
Mm.
started to say, okay, synthesizer are pretty interesting, and the cold music could be interesting, and just yes, I started to.
New wave like Joy Division and stuff
Yes,
like that,
Joy
like
Division.
that?
I
Yeah,
was
okay.
a huge fan of Joy Division, and
Well, I
I,
mean, this was the convergence of punk and techno, I guess you could say, or whatever you want to call electronic music and
yes, it
punk
was
music coming together.
the first step to electronic music. I mean,
Yeah.
and but actually, when I discovered the techno music from Detroit, that was really to me like the because I was huge fan of Joy Division on the side, and because of the hip hop, I discover also all the funk music and jazz music
Hmm.
samples they use in hip hop music. And I was really two different worlds, from cold wave and funk. That was really
Yeah.
and techno music was the music that joined these two worlds together. That fits these two worlds together because that was at the same time really funk and cold and dark and
Yeah.
and that was like, okay, I'm in it.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I never heard it put quite like that, and but I really, really like it. I'm going to be thinking about that. But that makes me think then, like, uh, what, what time frame was this? Like 93, 95, around there in mid 90s?
93 was the really first 12-inch we released with Philips Dar motor bass. The really first 12-inch vinyl we made together. That was in 20, 1994,
94.
93,
Yeah.
93, and our first album, the first motor bass album, was in 96. And Super Discount
Wow.
album, Super Discount, the Sensemina Marijuana, was in
Yep. Yep.
96 also.
Um, so when this music was coming out, then I mean, this is predating my knowledge, honestly, of this scene. Obviously, I mean, but I'm curious, like, what did they call it at the time? Because this is something that fascinates me about electronic music, that there's just like endless fucking names, like for all these different. There's different, like within house, there's all these different kinds of house music and all this and that. What did people refer to your music at the
We were
time?
the French touch, we launched the French touch actually with
House music though, or
it's house music, yeah.
yeah?
House
Okay.
music. Actually, I don't really know. I don't really know. It's
Yeah, I'm
it's
talking
almost
about.
like I think it's house music, but I'm not sure.
Honestly, I don't even so what
Yes, it's
designates
house
a lot
music.
of these things? Is it like beats per minute or something? Like what makes house music? What made trance music at the time? What makes this, this? I don't.
I don't.
Okay. You're making me feel better. I don't feel as stupid. I'm always like, what?
No, actually,
Okay.
all the purists are fake.
That makes me feel
So when,
better
when, when
because
someone says this is pure house music, you say, okay, then it's boring. I don't.
yeah.
Uh,
That
you
that's
need,
usually exactly what I think. If somebody's like, "This is pure house music," I'm like, "It probably is boring as shit. It's gonna sound like, you know." because I get into a lot of electronic music, but like these individual names for everything, I'm always lost because I like dub, I like, trance, I like house, I like old basic channel stuff is kind of like my favorite, but I have no idea what people call that. Like that's like
Tell me one
dubby house.
channel. I remember that was like, oh no, I don't remember. But for I heard one time a name perfect for his music. I don't
For
remember.
basic channel.
Yes, for basic channel.
That
But
kind of stuff always sounds like it's underwater to me. It's like take like
yeah,
electronic music and put it underwater and make it like woof, 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 woof.
yes, but it's one of
Yeah, but
the thing is, this music when you put it in a club, it's totally different. You receive the music
yeah,
totally different. In the big system. It's like it's totally different.
it really is. It's a totally different experience, and I always end up listening to it just in my studio while I'm working, and never experienced it in the club. But you play in the clubs all the time, I assume. Is that right? Do you play
Every
clubs often?
every weekend.
Okay, that's something I wanted to ask you about because that how I've seen images and videos and stuff like where you're playing to giant audiences, just giant, right? Like to me at least, it looks like a lot of people. What is that like? Like because that's got to be different than, I mean, not like that's such a unique experience. I imagine that the energetic exchange is interesting. Is that something that you're always aware of, or like, is there, or is it really like you focus all of it out and you are just in this moment with your electronics making this music, or is there definitely something going on with that audience and that many
No,
people?
it's something going on with the audience. Actually, uh, 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 it really depends. Sometimes you have huge audience and there is nothing happen. There is no communication because maybe sometimes you don't know why the sound is not good. The people are too far, and it's like you playing. You don't see exactly the people. Sometimes it's different. You get the energy from everyone. And the thing with when you because I used to play for big audience with my live setup, and then it's not just DJing. It's really I have a home studio on stage, and then I have my synthesizer on the rhythm box on the samplers, and then the thing is really crazy. It's sometimes you just unfilter a synthesizer, and you get like 5 or 10,000 people. They are screaming at and you get on everyone, and it's crazy. This feeling is absolutely crazy. You get control
Yeah.
of everybody with just one. That's
Yeah.
that's crazy. Uh,
I'm jealous now. Now I want to experience.
but, be careful because sometimes you have this wonderful time, and at the end of the show, I mean, you were in a close contact with 5 or 10,000 people, and at the end of the show you go back to your to the backstage and you're pretty alone, and then
Yeah.
you're like, what happened, where are the
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
you
You
get
wake up the next
your
day and like, yeah.
team like, yeah, that was good job, okay, let's go back to the hotel. So, what? And then,
Yeah. You go to the airport the next day, nobody knows who you are. You're still
yeah,
standing in a line, waiting to go through security just like everybody else. That's funny
exactly.
though. I understand, but yeah, I had to ask that. That's super interesting. And fuck, I had something else that I really wanted to ask you about with the live performance thing. But whatever. I guess I wanted to ask you about visuals in your live performance and how important live visuals have been to you as a musician. First of all, leading in then, of course, to the NFTs. But when you do live performances, do you have a live visual show? Is that something that's important to you, or not so much?
Yes, it's really important actually. That's why I was uh, the thing is, when you have a rock band with an instrument, it's okay on stage, it's okay, it's beautiful. We in electronic music, we are pushing faders like it's like a 10 centimeter max, or buttons, and it's really not amazing. It's not spectacular for the people in the audience. We are moving like really small stuff.
Yeah.
Then when I started to make a live performance, electronic live music performance, uh, then it's a lot of work because actually I have a home studio. I have all my gear on stage, but that was uh, really not beautiful. And then I uh, I um, I saw some footage, from me on stage, and I was like, "Wow, it's horrible! It's a shame. I cannot, you know, I cannot just provide such a poor show, on stage." And then I start to think about, I have to bring some visuals, I have to bring something, then people can be, focused on something more interesting than a guy
Immerse.
yeah. And then at the time, that was when Daft Punk came out with a pyramid, at Coachella. And then
Oh
when
yeah,
yeah, that was
that was early. Like when was that? Would you say?
I think that was maybe two in 2007 maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
But at Coachella, Daft Punk at Coachella, that was around that. I'm not sure, maybe 7 or 8. I don't remember very well. But then
Hmm.
they answered all the question I was about to ask to myself, and then after that, I worked on a show. That was a show with a cube, a big cube with a mapping projection on the cube, and I worked
Oh,
with
cool.
a crew called 1024 Architecture, and they set up, this live the stage this stage designed, and I was touring for like 5 years with this cube. And that was a pretty simple setup with just a giant cube, 6 meter square cube, and made with scaffold and with screens on it, and one video projector in front of it, just and that was the beginning of mapping projection, and that was pretty simple setup, pretty radical, and I had a lot of fun with this stage design.
It's um it's
And
interesting that you're talking about a cube right now because I'm looking at your object page, which is all cubes of your NFTs. But I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm pretty obsessed with Cube, and yes, but when I started to work with people for the stage design, I realized that I'm really interested in image and in visuals, and then because then for my work on stage, I need to bring some visuals, and then it's artistic direction. I mean, I'm really focused on what I want to, because sometimes, on electronic music act, you can have really shitty image. We used to have in a rave, we used to have, fractal images, and we used to have. It's not always very beautiful. And then I thought my job was to bring something more radical, more straight in visual for electronic
Mm,
music.
that's very interesting. Can we go into your NFT work now? I was
Yeah,
just looking at a lot of it, and it's so interesting. Like especially looking at your NFT work, and then hearing you talk about how you've thought about your stage presentation. I feel like there's a confluence between these two things a little bit. Um, how did you get into the NFTs, and do you see that as a direct extension of everything that you're talking about with like stage show? Is it an evolution of that?
yeah, because for my shows, I had to work on different software, like, After Effects, and then
Hmm.
Touch Designer, and then all these softwares, and then I learned it's not that far from music. I mean, to work on After Effects and on Pro Tools.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
to me it's the same. Uh, it's almost the same process. I mean, you have to you work with time.
100%. That's exactly what I was just about to say. I've worked in both. I'm not a musician by any means, but I've played around and stuff, and I work with musicians and shit. And when I opened up Pro Tools for the first time, it was like looking at a video editing software. You have
Yeah,
your timeline, you have your bits. It's like move the bits around on the timeline, blah blah blah. Same exact thing. You're working with time.
yeah, it's the same thing. Then on the and actually in for the music, the process is almost the same. I mean, I give some problems to me. I mean, how to do that, and then I try to solve the problem. And usually I, I solve other problems, not the first.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? You know, I find it, but it's all in music. It's almost the same process. I thought, okay, maybe this could be nice to have a track like this, and I try it, and actually it's not cool, but I discover other
Yep.
ways, and I work the same for images, and
Yeah, that's just the creative process, right?
yeah,
In
that's
general, it doesn't matter if you're making music or art or what it is. It's just like you try something, you get not what you're going for, but you get something better.
yeah. And I have that. My process needs technology because if I try to draw something, it doesn't work. It doesn't work
Yeah.
at all. I mean, and then I need the technology. I need to fight with technology because I'm not really. I don't know. Maybe I'm now a bit better, but I usually I try to make it with poor skills. I don't know. I love that in art in general. I
Me
love
too.
when people they make it with low skills on small
Yep.
instruments,
It's
and
just
then
like minimalism, really. It's not even like little skill. It's just being like minimalist, where it's just like what is the easiest way to do that most complex thing? That's the best way to do it. Like
yeah,
to me,
yeah,
at least. I this has just been running on my phone now for you can't even see it. This thing.
okay, yeah, and this.
Just been running forever, changing color. Beautiful piece. Sorry to interrupt again, but
Thank you.
it's
Thank
it's
you.
it's cool to look at your work while hearing you talk about all this. So sorry to jump around, but this is a one of one, right?
This is
That's just one piece, right? Like a one of one that's
this one
not
is
part of
one
a
one.
generative
Me-
series.
I actually I discovered the NFT with
Sorry.
oh, excuse me, with with because the first time I saw that was Quentin Dupieux, Monsieur Oiseau. He was Monsieur Oiseau from he's a electronic musician too, and then I saw on Twitter. I said, okay, yes, my NFT, and I was, what is NFT? What is that? And then that was like last year, I think, and I was like, oh, okay. Then I discovered Foundation, and then that was on Foundation. That was just 1-1, And then I first mint on Foundation. That was where I started. And after I discovered Tezos and Object and the FX Hash. But my first contact with NFT was on Foundation.
I'm seeing that on Foundation, and now I'm looking at your FX hash. This is really cool.
Oh, thank you. Thank
So you
you.
did this on June 6th, 2022, it says. So that's somewhat recently. So this is a generative project. How did you go about working generatively? How did did you learn the code yourself to
Yeah.
program a generative?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. There is a really good tutorial on YouTube called the Coding Train,
The
and
coding train?
yeah, it's a Coding Train. It's a YouTube channel for and it's really amazing because it's one of the best professor in the world. The guy is really enthusiastic, and he started really from the beginning of coding, and it goes like very far in coding, and it's really amazing. And then because generative, I think to me that was really like the core um, of digital art, because it's native. I like the idea you are doing NFT. They need computers to exist. You can't print generative. You can make it, but I like the idea of this really native.
I did too. I really love the idea of generative work being like you're saying, like the native art of computers, you could say. But what's really interesting about it is that like it's create you can create visuals using no visual input whatsoever,
Yes.
pure code, pure ones and zeros and dots and little this and that, and you spell it all out, and in the end you can make imagery. To me, I mean, there's no other form of image making like that. So there's something uh, really unique about it, even though it's not new, but it's novel. It's been around forever, but it's still very novel. So there's
And then
definitely something to it. So
I started to learn Java with P5 JavaScript, with
mhm.
and actually, really, my brain is bleeding, because it's so hard. I'm like, wow, it's so, for all the really good colors, I think when they see my work, I say, okay, it's not, it's not really, it's not really hard to do, but I like that. I'm actually, it's like, when you do music and you're not a musician and you do music, sometimes you can find the most beautiful melodies with three notes,
Yeah.
and it's what I try to do, to not be I don't want to be a coder, but I try to
Yeah.
make some codings.
Yeah, I mean that reminds me of what Kevin Abosh. Are you familiar with Kevin Abosh,
Yes.
the artist? Yeah.
Yeah,
When I speak with
of
him
course.
about generative art or whatever, like when and like how his standing within the generative art world, I guess you could say it or whatever. That well, I won't even go into that. I'll just say it sounds like there's different kinds of generative artists. There's the generative artists who are very proud of the code that they wrote and they want to show off the code in like the best, most complex code, blah, blah, blah. That's the best. And then there's the other generative artists who are just like, I make art. I just care about that art piece at the end. In the code, I don't give a shit. It can be a mess. It can be nonsense. It can be bullshit. It can stand up to this or that test or not. Don't care if I get the right outputs. And I find that quite fascinating, like little difference. But you definitely sound like you're on the end of like, I don't give a shit as long as it's
No,
cool in the end and it works.
no, I would love to make it good, I would love it, but I'm just starting. But I see it's really obsessing. Actually, code, I just discovered like 6 months ago, and code is really obsessing. When you
Hmm.
start, I mean, it's in your brain forever. You're like, oh, on what it's, I dream in code.
Wow. I mean, so did you find it to be at all similar to your process of music making? Since your music, like electronic music, it's on a computer, we already related it to like the video timeline. But was there any similarities between composing, I guess, electronic music or
No,
any sort of similarities between that and coding?
no, it's totally different because in coding, you just, I mean, generative art, you just set up some rules and you see what happens.
Mm,
The random then produce something, but you put some rules, and it's totally different. In music, I work on the material, and for generative, you put some rules, and you have to set the good rules. You see what I mean? It's
yeah,
totally
absolutely.
it's
Yeah,
it's not
absolutely.
the same process at all. That's why it's so exciting, because the process is really different.
So that being said, it made me think right away and I'm sure it is possible, but is it interesting to you at all, like generative music, where you set up the rules for music, for notes, or I don't even know how you do it, but it seems like this is possible.
Yes, that should be possible, but I'm not good enough in code to do that. No, I
And who
see.
knows what it would sound like.
Yeah, I have to try, but right now I don't feel. I think it takes too much time to get something good, but I will do it for sure. But right now I feel maybe because I'm working on an album now with
Hmm.
the old way of doing music, and then maybe when I finish that, I can start on coding music.
Yeah,
But
interesting.
uh, I think it's I don't know. I have to try that generative music.
Generative music sounds interesting, and I know like AI music exists where it's like using
Yes,
artificial
yes.
intelligence to make that. Like Holly Herndon, I know is a musician doing a lot of that kind of stuff. Maybe you've heard of her, maybe not. But uh, I did want to ask about music NFTs and what your thoughts about music NFTs are and how that works. And let me just preface that a little bit. I'm really into music as well, and ever since the beginning of NFTs, I've been trying to kind of work through in my head how music and the music industry can benefit from the um, revolutionary technology of NFTs, I guess you could say, but which is bringing money into the hands of creators. And so, to me, the way that I'm thinking about music and wondering how musicians and these underground indie musicians, I'm friends with a lot of musicians, wondering how they can benefit from the same structure, but at the same time, running into a lot of issues in my head of like, okay, music is a lot more accessible and music is something that we carry around in our pocket and we want to access it every moment. We want it in our car, we want it in our headphones, we want it in the store that we're shopping in, we want it, every single place we are. How do we democratize music in that way still, while still utilizing the technology of blockchain in a way that gives money to the creators in a better structure than something like Spotify, while being as accessible as Spotify? Is that impossible?
Actually, I don't see because I'm looking at NFTs with music also, but I don't see anything. I mean, we are selling MP3 for a decade now in music. We sell
Well, in
we
the
sell some,
record industry, right? Like
yes,
the bureaucracy of the record industry is like 100 years old, right? Isn't it? Like the way that royalties and
yes,
all this and that are paid and shit.
we used to sell some CDs, and now, but I mean, since iTunes, we sell some MP3s. Then we sell some digital files for years. I mean, NFT is not a revolution for music because we
No,
used to do
no,
it
yeah.
for years. And I think for visual artists, that was a
Well,
revolution because they didn't have a way to get paid with visual digital art. But with music, the industry exists for a long time, and then
mhm.
I mean the successful artists get paid for. I mean, um, and then a lot of people they complain about Spotify. They saved the music industry, Spotify, uh, uh, because now we have the music everywhere. That was not the case. Like 20 years ago, that was not the case. We
Mhm.
we had to buy every single CD, and then to me, Spotify because they saved the music industry. And artists they didn't wait for Spotify to get screwed by major company. The major company I mean, 50 years ago, they already screwed
I know.
no, but Spotify doesn't change that. And then now, if I'm an independent artist, I get the money. Spotify gives the money directly to me, and it's okay. And it really changed my life, because for like 10 years ago, I had money only with DJ gigs or live shows, and now Spotify they send me some music. It's just the artists in music industry they have to to be independent. They shouldn't sign to major company, except for the really big ones. But if you are independent, you can make it. And
Why
I
do
don't
people complain about Spotify so much then, do you think? What do you think? Or maybe you don't
I don't
experience that, but I
understand.
see it all the time.
Big, yeah, but I don't understand because people they said okay, it's just a one I don't know 0.001 cents one play in Spotify. Yes, but it's for life.
Yeah, yeah.
For the life, and then after uh, uh, I mean, I remember when I studied music, we used to sell CDs, and when people get your CDs, they buy it once.
Burn that shit. Yeah, they
They
burn
buy
that
it
shit.
once, and now if they want to listen to your music, you get paid every
Yeah.
year, every day, and then it's. I think it's.
You're that's an interesting point. I wonder like if you extrapolate the data for like a lifetime of streams versus like that one CD purchase, which one's
Yes.
more? It's probably lifetime of streams. Yeah. They just don't
Yeah.
think in that term. That's really interesting. I really like that. I'm glad I asked because like all my indie friends on Instagram, you know, like, oh, Spotify is so terrible. They don't pay us for whatever. In my argument, like it's similar to what you were just saying. But for years, I had been saying before NFTs, hey, I'm just on Instagram uploading my artwork and I don't even get a fraction of a penny. I would kill for a fraction of a penny for a like, you know, like, like that sounds great.
Exactly.
I don't get anything for this. So, but yeah, that's really interesting. I like that. So, Etienne, this has been a really great conversation. I would love to hear more, just a little bit about maybe what you're working on now. I know you have the album. Is there anything else though on the NFT side of things? Do you have drops coming up? Do you have more visuals that you're working on alongside of the album?
Actually, I always have some uh, workshop, open in different, like in Touch Designer or in
Hmm.
JavaScript. And but actually, I'm working on the piece for Fake Whale, uh,
Nice.
uh, and then
What
that's
in for Fake Whale, will you be minting into the vault or doing a drop with us?
no, it's for into the vault, I think.
Awesome.
But
Hell yeah.
yes, I work on this piece, and it's like I have to talk to them to see if they're okay for that. But I like to have a like a generative, but no minting. I don't know how to say that. It's just like a interactive piece. You can
Okay.
change, but not mint any.
Like a series.
Yeah, but just open, like a generative, but always open. You see what I mean?
Okay.
You,
It just
you
running.
Yeah, it's just running. Yeah.
And that okay, that actually answers about the pieces that you have on Foundation because I kind of mentioned this, but on Foundation I noticed they're one of ones, they're generative pieces, which is not common, or I don't see that very often where it's just like one piece, but it's generative
Where?
on
And
Foundation.
which one?
Like when I go to Foundation, I see like, let me see here. I'll go now. That one I showed you earlier. Oh,
Okay,
there's
but no,
87 of it.
it's a video. It's not.
But that's generative, right?
I know I made it with Touch Designer, but it's a video.
Oh,
It's a
okay. That's
Yeah,
not okay. I see.
MP4.
It looks like generative work though. Still, it's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. I got to dig into your Foundation a little bit more because I see you have all kinds of stuff on here, just like photographs and everything too. Is that right?
No, it's not photographs. It's videos. I put some
Videos.
yeah, my main project on Foundation now is like the sampling rate 1 hertz. And it's videos with only 1 second videos.
Yeah,
It's
it says
actually
sampling rate 1 hertz. What is
yeah.
the story here?
It's a diary with I sampling my life every day, just 1 second samples. And when I have 60 samples, I mint it on the
Cool.
Foundation. And then
I love that.
maybe I'm maybe at like the last one is like 80. I don't remember. But then it's a diary that I saved on chain.
That's great. This
I
is
will
cool.
see what is doing. But I want
And
to.
then go ahead, sorry.
No, it's okay. I just it's kind of a memory of my life.
The Hertz thing seems to be somewhat of a theme with you lately. If I'm not mistaken, I saw your most recent track on Spotify. Looking at it now, here, trying to find it. Kepler 186F. What is this in reference to? Is this the planet? Is this a planet?
Yes,
A
it's
moon?
the planet. It's the planet.
For
Yeah,
everybody that's
yeah.
watching and can see here on Spotify, this is his most recent track. Oh, June 15th, 2022. It's a great track, by the way. I put it on repeat for a
Oh,
little
thank you.
while in the studio. What's the story behind this track?
Actually, this track, uh, I usually I usually work in series. I love to make albums or series. Like I have a series on Spotify, After series. With 8 track under the name of After. The After something. Usually, it's not usual
I
for
see.
me to make just one track. On this one, that was because a friend of me, he was I was trying. I was a beta tester for Auto Machine Biscuit. That's an effect Auto Machine Biscuit, and I was a beta tester. Then he sent to me at the studio, and I was trying. I played with this FX, and actually I made this track just like that. And that was not in purpose to make a real track. But then when I had the track, I used to play it in clubs. Actually, the effect on the crowd was always amazing. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this track. It's not exactly my kind of music. It's not my sound, but the track is really really good. Then last year I decided to make to release it for then other DJs can play it. And
Cool.
but the effect on the crowd is really amazing, and that's why.
That's awesome. Yeah, what a great way of like getting feedback on music to have a crowd like that, or get feedback in general like that would just be great. Like I would love to have a piece of my art and just be like, put it in front of a crowd and have 10,000 people like, yeah, be like, okay,
Yeah, yeah. But actually, it's kind of I feel the same when you drop something, and when the drop goes well, it's the same
Mhm.
kind of.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
you're
I,
pretty.
I noticed. I noticed
You
on your FX hash that your drop went very well. Is that right? Did that go well for you on FX hash?
Yes, yes, but I mean, it's the same kind of joy, but you feel you stay a bit more alone anyway because you're behind.
Because you're alone the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
You never. Oh, that's amazing. Well, I'm really excited for your mint into the Fake Whale Vault, and excited to hear your upcoming album with all these collaborators. What do you have any idea when the album will be done or released? Will you be self-releasing it?
I don't know. I hope I can release the first single in the next spring. You know,
Great,
around I don't know, maybe April, March. I
awesome.
hope I'll be ready for that.
That's exciting. Well, we'll definitely be staying tuned. Thank you again, Etienne. This has been a
Thank
wonderful conversation. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm going to go back to working in the studio and listening to your music now. So, but we really appreciate you. Take care,
you.
everybody listening. Till next time. Thank you.
Bye bye.